وقف حاج، إذا مش حاسس فيهم وقف لو سمحت.
بتصلي الله اكبر، بتصلي وقف وقف وقف. خذوه والله تبع حوزه. عمير عمير
لا إله إلا الله، لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
في معي لقيت
استنى اعطوني جوز، هات جوز، هات جوز.
don't get no justice, if we don't get no justice, if we don't get no justice, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine.
the Palestinian youth movement, decolonize this place. Existence is resistance. I know we got Cuny Law, SJP in the house. The Free Ahmed Manasra campaign is also here, and so many other organizations that are here to speak to you. And you'll hear from our speakers soon. I just want to start off by saying that we know why we're here. We're here to protest this consulate, this flag that is responsible for the killing of countless Palestinians, not just in recent days, but for over 70 years, for the last 74 years, and even before that, even before the Nakba. So we're going to hear from different speakers today, and I want you all to give them your undivided attention. Don't let Zionists or detractors distract us from learning about our struggle and learning about our cause, because not only is this space today here for us to collectively rage together about the constant injustices that we are witnessing happening on Palestinian land, blood being spilled on holy land. We are also here to learn about Palestine so that we can go home, go back to our schools, our workplaces, our institutions, and educate everyone else about this and mobilize everyone else until every inch of Palestine is free from the river to the sea by any means necessary. So we're going to hear from our first speaker from the Palestinian youth movement. Give it up. Hi everybody, can you hear me? Okay, I'm Samar, I'm with the Palestinian youth movement. Louder? Okay. For those who don't know, Palestinian youth movement is a grassroots transnational movement comprised of Palestinian and Arab youth in exile due to the ongoing occupation of our land by the colonial imperial state of Israel, which is nothing other than the manifestation of a 100-year-long Western imperialist invasion of Arab lands. Today, I want to talk about what we're calling a rally to support Palestinian resistance and liberation. We call our rally a rally to support Palestinian resistance because what drives Palestinian struggle is resistance. And we call our rally a rally to support Palestinian liberation because what remains the ultimate objective of Palestinian struggle is total liberation. And when we say total liberation, we do not mean this in an abstract or wishy-washy way. We mean the total liberation of Palestine, from the river to the sea. We mean the rightful return of the millions of displaced Palestinians who have remained in exile for decades. And we mean the complete end of the Zionist expansion and invasion of all Arab lands. Today, Zionists are not happy about our uses of the words resistance and liberation. They've gone on in the past few days to write pathetic op-eds in Zionist media, smearing us, claiming that the use of our direct and justified language of resistance and liberation is insightful. This Zionist claim should be no surprise to any of us. Resistance and liberation are two things that are constantly suppressed by the imperialist media in this country. The Zionists, the US, the reactionary European states, and those who propel the colonial project in Palestine refuse to discuss resistance and liberation when spreading their propaganda about Palestine because these are the two things that make our struggle legitimate. For us, in the center of the US empire, we must constantly reframe the Palestinian struggle by centering the importance of Palestinian resistance and the moral, ethical, and legal right to resist. We must constantly challenge how the US and Israel and their propaganda machines attempt to erase resistance from our struggle. Their criminalization of resistance is their attempt to alienate the Palestinian people from the world, to smear our struggle, and to manufacture consent from Americans for the colonization of Palestine by feeding Americans lies and racist propaganda. The erasure of resistance is directly tied to the ongoing project of making American people ignorant of the world and of making American people ignorant of the ongoing reality of Palestinian resistance. This has allowed the US and Europe to manufacture consent from their populations for Zionist fascism in Palestine, which is only sustainable due to US and European support. Yet despite these attempts, our history and our reality continues to prove that resistance to the Zionist project is the only way forward for Palestinian liberation, and that resistance is what ensures the existence of Palestinian people. As another comrade in PYM has said, some say our existence is resistance, but it's actually the other way around. Our resistance is what allows our existence. It's our long legacy of resistance that has made our existence possible and that has made our existence revolutionary. Palestinians have every right to resist. They have every right to engage in acts of sabotage and resistance, and this is a right that has allowed us to live with dignity and our heads held high. Palestinian resistance has always understood the nature of Zionism the best. In 1968, forces of the Palestinian Revolution wrote that Zionism is racist and fanatic in its nature, aggressive, expansionist and colonial in its aims, and fascist in its methods. Today, Zionism continues to operate on and sustain itself from degradation, violence, exploitation, mass imprisonment, and theft. Throughout its entire existence, Zionism, embodied in the State of Israel, has proved to the world that it stops at nothing. And in response, Palestinians have proven that we will never end our struggle for the liberation of Palestine and its return to its rightful inhabitants. Yesterday, the Zionist state made a decision to not allow settlers, Zionist settlers, to enter the holy site of Al-Aqsa starting on Friday. This is a direct result of Palestinian resistance. Settlers will not enter Al-Aqsa thanks to the Palestinian youth who have been valiantly defending Al-Aqsa against these violent Zionist incursions made possible by American and European weapons, money, silence, and complicity. Today, the Zionists had planned a march through Jerusalem in celebration of ethnic cleansing. This is a march that fascist Zionist forces have every year, where they march towards the old city and try to intimidate and terrorize Palestinians in their city. But this got canceled, and the settlers were forced to retreat. It was canceled due to their fear of retaliation in Gaza. Due to the fear of the resistance from Gaza, which is the center of Palestinian resistance. And Gaza, which continues to answer when Palestine is attacked, just as we saw last year when the people of Gaza rose up in defense of Palestine and against the Zionist expropriations in Sheikh Jarrah. Because Gaza proves time and time again that Palestine is one, that the Palestinian people are one, and that Palestine will not be divided, the Zionists and the Israelis today are afraid. They show their true nature as cowards, and they have retreated. This retreat is thanks to the resistance of the Palestinian people. We need to understand that any single capitulation or surrender of the Zionist state is due to the Palestinians on the ground directly confronting Zionism, from Jerusalem to Gaza to Jenin. Any win of the Palestinian people comes from the Palestinian people and their supporters. Our struggle is long, but as the Sen Kanafani said, there is no end to our struggle. There is no end to Palestinian struggle as long as Zionism and imperialism are present in our lands. As Palestinians who are bearers of a rich and beautiful history, our history is defined by our people's steadfast popular resistance to Zionist colonization and global imperialism. At every turn, Palestinian history is marked by revolutionary struggle against reactionary violence. From the 1936 to 1939 revolution, led by dispossessed Palestinian peasants, to the Palestinian revolution of the 60s and 70s, to the intifadas, which showed the world that the Palestinian people will never stop fighting for Palestine. For over 100 years, our people have faced Zionist settler colonialism and imperialism, and for over 100 years, Palestinians and revolutionary Arabs have risen and struggled against it. What makes Palestinian struggle heroic and what makes Palestinian struggle legitimate is that resistance has never receded and that the objective of liberation and return has never faded. For everyone here today, we should never forget these three things. One, when we organize for Palestine, we are organizing for a struggle that has been in existence for over 100 years. Two, that we are therefore part of a struggle which has always been global and always been in line with the progressive movements against colonial barbarism, imperial expansion, and the capitalist degradation of the world and its inhabitants. And three, that because of our location in the US, in the center of empire, we have increasingly important obligation to not only confront and condemn Zionism, but to support Palestinians in their legitimate resistance struggle to reclaim our rightful place in history. It's amazing, so many people here have heard about Ahmed Manasra, and if you didn't, we're gonna hear about him a little bit more. But ever since October 2015, when the world watched the horrific video of 13-year-old Ahmed lying on the ground, bleeding after being run over by occupation forces, moments after he had witnessed the Israeli occupation forces shoot and kill his older cousin. To this day, he continues to be in prison. To this day, like many Palestinian children who are suffering at the hands of the Zionist state, of course they do this for no reason, and they have no reason to begin with because they have no right to be on our land. So please give it up to our next speaker, Natori from the Palestine Global Mental Health Network, who is also part of the Free Ahmed Manasra campaign, to talk about him a little bit more to you all today.
Thank you all for being here. You all know about him, I don't have to tell you more, but I want you to know that Ahmed is one of hundreds of Palestinian children. I have to speak up a little bit. I can speak louder, I can for Ahmed and speak louder. So Ahmed, as you know, probably you know, every year there are at least 700 Palestinian children are jailed and go through an apartheid system that makes sure to crush their soul and spirit. It's a vengeful system that aims to destroy our future. You know, this is a big plan. It's not only Ahmed Manasra. This is a plan to steal our childhood, to steal our future. That's why we want to free Ahmed Manasra. He is now suffering, he needs immediate medical attention. What we are asking for is for his immediate release to get proper medical attention. But also he is one of a system, we have coined a term called unchilding, which is stealing the childhood of the Palestinians. If they steal the childhood of our people, we don't have a future, we don't have Palestine. So thank you all for being here. I have leaflets back there, come take them so you know what you can do to help us free Ahmed Manasra. Thank you.
We must keep this campaign going, we must escalate, not only for Ahmed, but for all Palestinian children and all Palestinians who continue to be unjustly imprisoned by the Zionist state. Free, free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Assalamu alaikum. I pray to the Almighty that He should bestow upon me His truth, His wisdom, and that I be made worthy of conveying His message to people here, but really to people throughout the world. They should hear this message. This is a message that is going from the Jewish community, from occupied Palestine and around the world. We are Jews who are observant Jews, Jews who uphold the words of the Torah, people who are following the words of the Torah that the Zionists are using as a tool to occupy, to silence, to intimidate, to strike fear into people around the world and accuse them of being anti-Semitic if they speak up for the people of Palestine. Well, we are the ones who are upholding this Torah, and we are here to let the world hear a statement from us, to let the world hear what the Torah says. And that is one thing and one thing only, and that is that the occupation is unacceptable. It is against God. As you all know and have experienced what they do, how they attack this wonderful lady, Cuny, how they're attacking all the other organizations, people who stand up for the suffering of the people of Palestine, and they immorally attack them as being anti-Semitic. And you know how false that is, how repulsive, how revolting to hear, and how there's just baseless these claims are. That is exactly the way they are using the symbols of Judaism. They're using our Torah, our religion. Now, for well over 100 years, the Zionists are using our religion to build and to solidify and sort of try to legitimize an occupation throughout Palestine. We will not stand by silently with the help of the Almighty and watch as our religion is being used for criminal acts, as our religion is being smeared and sullied. We will not be silent. Judaism is a religion to be subservient to God. It is a religion of 3,000 years. This Zionist movement is a mere 100-odd years, created by people who were estranged, detached, and actually hated the religion. They were looking for a way, a convenient way, to create a political entity, a political movement. And somehow, this is selfish, flawed movement, they decided to take its place in Palestine. They were actually looking for other practical places, like Uganda, like in Patagonia, but they picked Palestine because that looked really promising, because they were able to take the Torah and wave it as a deed to the land and claim, oh, the Almighty gave us the land, totally ignoring the voice of all the rabbinical authorities who kept on saying loud and clear, this is unacceptable. 2,000 years ago, we were driven by the Almighty into exile, and we are expressly forbidden to return en masse. We are expressly forbidden to create even 1 inch, 1 centimeter of Jewish sovereignty. This is unacceptable in all shapes and forms, to kill, to steal. It's all unacceptable. It's not our Judaism. And then the fateful day of 1948, when the United Nations that was created not long before then decided to ratify this Zionist state, the so-called Jewish state, the leader of that Jewish community, and I always carried along with me, Rabbi Dushinsky of blessed memory, the chief rabbi, said, and again, not to be confused with the Zionist state and the chief rabbi, the clowns and that masquerade in the Jewish religion. We're talking about the representatives of the old Jewish community of Palestine. And he stated, and it's the United Nations records, he said, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. This was was a declaration before the United Nations in July 16, 1947. That voice was never silenced. That voice continues till today. My Jewish brothers and sisters stand in the streets of Al-Quds and demonstrate and cry, pray, fast to God, and constantly look for ways and opportunities to be able to end this occupation. We believe that there's an Almighty and that He rules the world and He is full of compassion and that this occupation will end just as Pharaoh had to end the subjugation of the Jewish people in Egypt. That ended, and the Roman Empire ended, and the Greek Empire ended. This will end. You should know this will end. We don't know when. We're not prophets. We don't know how. We only know that we as people who are created by God have the obligation to stand up and speak up and cry and pray to the God and also to the leaders of the world, to speak to our political leaders and plead with them that they should stop ignoring the people, the innocent people, the people of Palestine. They should stop ignoring what is right and what is humane. They should stop attacking and accusing the victims of being villains and justifying the villains as victims. This is unacceptable, and it's nothing to do with a Jewish religion. They should respect their Jewish distinguished rabbis, scholars, and communities that is right in the center of the United States. They should hear these multitudes and hundreds of thousands of Jews who have been following the religion and giving their life for the Jewish religion. Just recently in the Holocaust, how many of my brothers and sisters, our parents and grandparents, our communities from people that died because of their religion, and we are totally ignored and not respected. We are not heard, although we speak up and we state that occupying Palestine is a simple crime. It's nothing else but a crime. It's stealing, it's killing. There is no way to justify this. Our religion is quite clear. It's not ambiguous. There's no question, and the very religious around the world are clear in their condemning the occupation. So why are our political leaders around the world ignoring us? It's simply unacceptable, and we cannot be silent, and we plead for all of you, never be caught into that web, into that Zionist ploy of calling people who speak up for Palestine anti-Semitic. This is unacceptable. Rather, we should be standing up and telling the people around the world that the people of Palestine don't have water, don't have food, don't have homes, don't have a life. Speak up, and at the same time, we should not be intimidated and not be afraid of you accused of being anti-Semitic, and we should pray to God that we should be able to have that day of a Palestine free of occupation where we can live together, embrace in harmony. One, two, three, four.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Zionism no more.
Zionism no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel's not the Jewish state.
Israel's not the Jewish state.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Israel no more.
Israel no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
End the killing and the hate.
And the killing and the hate.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Israel no more.
Israel no more.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Marks the midpoint of 10 days of struggle for Palestinian prisoners' liberation. Palestinian prisoners represent the Palestinian resistance, and their solidarity and support are key to upholding their leadership in the liberation struggle. These are also days of action to defend our sister organization, the Collective Palestine Vaincra, which has with other pro-Palestine, anti-fascist, and social justice organizations been targeted by the French government for administrative dissolution, banning under threat of imprisonment or fines for organizing for Palestine. In addition to their campaigns for the boycott of Israel, their advocacy for Palestinian prisoners, and for the liberation of the Lebanese struggler for Palestine, George Abdullah, has been specifically targeted for repression. In this third week of the holy month of Ramadan, we also observed Palestinian Prisoners' Day on April 17th, which comes as over 530 Palestinians are jailed without charge or trial, under admin detention, and who have undertaken since the first of this year a collective boycott of Israeli military courts. Today, we recognize the Palestinian resistance inside and outside the prison walls, which is fighting for the liberation of Palestine and defending the people of Palestine and the world from the forces of Zionism, reaction, and imperialism. We salute this new generation of Palestinians who are joining in a long line of struggle alongside the Palestinian resistance to announce Oslo a dead letter and fight for the liberation of every inch of Palestine, from Nablus and Hebron to Haifa, Gaza, and Jerusalem.
Yes!
It is the Palestinian resistance, including all of the prisoners in Zionist jail, who are paying close attention to events within Palestine and within the region, and working to hasten the liberation of the land. We uplift their ongoing struggle, which is both an act of love and inspiration to make what is revolutionary ordinary within Palestine. And indeed, one day, it will be ordinary for the Palestinian living in Jordan to be greeted with plates of kebsa by their kin, for prisoners to visit the graves of their family members and eat the fruits of the land, and for worshipers to pray in Al-Aqsa without the threat of sound bombs, live bullets, and mass arrest. Through constant sacrifice and tenacity, the resistance has proven to all of us, but especially Palestinians, within and without the homeland, that liberation is a real possibility and more imminent than imagined. Today and throughout these days of struggle, we stand with the resistance that built a freedom tunnel to liberation, that defends Jenin camp from invasion, and resists colonization and Nakba, and fights for freedom in Gaza. Long live the Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Thawra hatta Nasr! From Palestine to Gaza!
From Palestine to Gaza!
From New York to Gaza!
From New York to Gaza!
Globalize the Intifada!
Globalize the Intifada!
From New York to Gaza!
From New York to Gaza!
Globalize the Intifada!
Globalize the Intifada!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada revolution!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Revolution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada! Intifada!
Intifada! Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Please give it up to our next speaker from Cuny Law, Students for Justice in Palestine, Fatima. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. So I come to you all today with a very, very short message. And that is glory to the martyrs, glory to the resistance, glory to Palestinian men fighting on the land, glory to each and every single person throwing the stones, glory to each and every single Palestinian man, woman, child fighting for their land. And make no mistake, folks will tell you that this is not a cause about Islam. I'm here to remind you today that Palestine is not only about Islam, but it is about Islam.
It is not the only cause, but it is one of the causes. And if it were not, it would not be raining their bullets in Masjid Al-Aqsa during the holy month of Ramadan. So what I'm about to do today, right now, is make a short dua, and that's a prayer. And I'm going to ask all the items here who speak Arabic for a mic check. So I'm going to say it, you repeat after me. All right? Can I hear y'all? Yeah! Great, okay. اللهم اشرح صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم انصر أهل فلسطين. آمين. اللهم انصرهم على من عاداهم. آمين. اللهم صوب رميهم. آمين. اللهم ثبت الأرض تحت أقدامهم. آمين. اللهم اجعل نار أعدائهم بردا وسلاما عليهم. آمين. اللهم اجعل لأهل فلسطين النصر والعزة والغلبة والقوة والهيبة في قلوب أعدائهم. اللهم اشف جرحاهم. اللهم أسر أسراهم. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في سبيل الله في برك وبحرك وجوك يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل نار المسلمين تحرق على الأعداء. اللهم احرس المسجد الأقصى في مكر الماكرين. اللهم اقتل من قتل المسلمين. اللهم انصر شعب فلسطين على أعدائك وأعدائهم. اللهم آمين. آمين. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. And the last reminder I have today is greater empires have crumbled beneath our feet. And Israel will crumble too. And yes, it's a matter of time. But by Allah's swear, and by the glory to the resistance, it will happen. And it will happen.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for that message. We know that this is the holiest time in Islam, the holiest month in Islam. And Al-Aqsa is the holiest site for Muslims who are living in Palestine. In all of Palestine, it's the holiest site. In Islam, it is the third holiest site. It is the first Qibla. That means it is the direction where every single Muslim once prayed. And that is not by accident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom gave us that to remind us that we cannot just rush past the injustices that we see happening in the streets or to our brothers and sisters in Palestine and ignore it to go pray Taraweeh. Because our religion tells us that we must resist in pursuit of justice, that we must fight injustice anywhere we see it. So while it is disgusting that the Zionist attacks escalate in Ramadan because they believe that Muslims are going to be weaker than the people of Palestine are even stronger. The lions of Palestine are even stronger. And just like someone from PYM said in the beginning, we were actually able to gain a great win out of this. The fact that Israeli soldiers are not letting settlers go into Al-Aqsa at this point because they fear retaliation from Gaza is a very important and strong point for our struggle. Because with all their might, with all their billions, with all their weapons, with all the backing of the empire, of the US empire that has waged colonialism, that has waged imperialism, war and death on the masses, the billions of masses around the world, the people of Palestine, without an army, with homemade resistance, with homemade weapons, with rocks, with our spirit, with our resilience, are resisting, and we are winning. And we are going to win, and we are going to free Palestine within our lifetime, because we understand this phrase, by any means necessary. And when I say this phrase, I'm going to tie it back to Black liberation, because we know who said it. Malcolm X, who also went to Palestine, who also saw these injustices phrase from the beginning started with the black liberation struggle, who we learn from every day. And when we say from New York to Palestine, occupation is a crime, we understand that occupation isn't just the Israeli soldiers brutalizing, killing Palestinians on our land, but it is also the NYPD here who have been brutalizing black people for decades. It is the NYPD here who, instead of preventing the shooting on the train the other day, they have nothing better to do than harass homeless people. They have nothing better to do than homeless sweeps, which we saw videos of again this morning, kicking out homeless people from the few places that they've been able to find to seek shelter. That is also a form of occupation. And I bring this up because we have to understand that our struggles are inextricably linked, that we cannot liberate one struggle without the other. These oppressors, that Israeli flag, that American flag, they come together not only to oppress Palestinians and people here, but people all over the world. The U.S. gives $10 million a day in military aid to Israel from your tax dollars. So next time somebody says, what does this have to do with me? Remind them, you're paying for it. You're paying for it. And if you disagree with what your government is paying for, if you disagree with the fact that the U.S. sends millions of dollars that end up as bullets in the chests of Palestinian children, then you must be vocal and stand up and speak against it. Gaza has been under attack once again during Ramadan. The Zionists have escalated violence against Palestinians, and they bombed Gaza this year, just like they did last year, just like they did in 2014, just like they do almost every year in Ramadan. This is why we call for this urgent mobilization. And there are protests that are happening around the world, not just in New York. Cities around the entire country and worldwide are coming together to condemn this latest attack on Gaza and the arrest of the nearly 500 Palestinians since Friday who are attempting to pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque. We call for an end to the Zionist bombardment of Gaza. We call for an end to the attacks on Al-Aqsa and all forms of Zionist colonial violence. And we call an end to Zionism, and yes, we call an end to the settler state of Israel. No settler state has the right to exist, especially one built off of the continuous genocide of the Palestinian people. The Nakba may have begun in 1948, but it did not end. It's going on till today. And the only way to end it is to free Palestine within our lifetime by any means necessary.
justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
When people are occupied.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
When people are occupied.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
And what do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it.
Shut it down.
If we don't get it.
Shut it down.
If we don't get it.
Shut it down.
If Gaza doesn't get it.
Shut it down.
So we're gonna direct people to go.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Long live the intifada.
Long live the intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Long live the intifada.
Long live the intifada.
In Palestine is our demand.
Palestine is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
No peace on stolen land.
Palestine is our demand.
Palestine is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
No peace on stolen land.
It is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, go to hell.
It is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, go to hell.
So free, free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
ومن الميال الميال.
من الميال الميال.
فلسطين عربية.
فلسطين عربية.
ومن الميال الميال.
من الميال الميال.
فلسطين عربية.
فلسطين عربية. من الأقصى للحديد.
باب يفتح إلا الشهيد.
باب يفتح إلا الشهيد.
باب الأقصى من حديد.
باب الأقصى من حديد.
باب يفتح إلا الشهيد.
باب يفتح إلا الشهيد.
And we will free Palestine.
We will free Palestine.
Within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime.
And we will free Palestine.
We will free Palestine.
Within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. There is only one solution.
Resistance is justified.
When people are colonized.
When people are colonized.
Resistance is justified. When people are colonized. Whose street?
Our streets.
Whose street?
Our streets.
Whose street?
Our streets.
Whose street?
Our streets.
Whose land?
Our land.
Whose land?
Our land.
Whose land?
Our land.
Whose land? Whose street?
Our streets.
Whose street? Whose street?
Our streets.
You know where we are.
Nakba Day, May 15th in Bay Ridge. Be there. We're gonna be there all day. And follow our organizations. Hit us up on Instagram at WOL Palestine or Palestinian Youth Movement or Samadou Network to see more actions that we're gonna announce in the coming days. Thank you. I don't want to keep y'all here too long.